Tiny Epic Crimes from Gamelyn Games by Scott Almes, and you should absolutely get it. Hi, thank you for tuning in to the Tom Patelson Show. Yeah! This is a review of Tiny Epic Crimes from Gamelyn Games. And as far as the Tiny Epic Games series go, here are the ones I have and the ones I've played. I played Tiny Epic Galaxies with Beyond the Black expansion, Tiny Epic Zombies, Dungeons, Pirates, Dinosaurs, Mechs, and Western. Those are all the Tiny Epic games I've played, and there's like 8 more that I haven't. But I love this series. Before Tiny Epic Crimes came out, my ranking of the series goes like that. Those are the games I like in the order that I like them. Tiny Epic Dungeons is pretty high, considering we've only played the game a couple of times and we've never won, and it's really complicated, and I don't know, but I love the enormity of Tiny Epic Dungeons, I really do. And you better believe I am backing Tiny Epic Cthulhu, which is the next one coming out. They haven't dropped it on Kickstarter, but I'm 100% backing that. I can't turn down a Cthulhu game. Also from Scott Almes, who is the creator of the game, worked with Renegade Studios on his solo series, and I've done a review for Reckland Run for this channel, and I also own Warp's Edge, which is a great solo player space epic game. Good stuff. Tiny Epic. Why do I like the Tiny Epic games? Because I really enjoy the enormity of the games in the tiny box. That's the whole shtick of the thing, but I like it a lot. I also like it how they make the board out of the cards that you get. They make the cards and you shuffle the cards, and so the board is always different. They do this with most of their games where the board is ever changing. It's never the same game twice. That's great. I also love the meeples that they do. Tiny Epic Zombies is one of the games that they have that has item meeples, which allows you to put weapons into the hands of the meeples as they get them. They're unnecessary for gameplay. You get a card that says you've got the weapon, but there's nothing better than seeing little pieces of plastic armed to the teeth. It brings me back to the game every time. I love that. The components for this game are wooden or cardboard, but I'll get into the components later and how much I love them. First of all, the overview of Tiny Epic Crimes. Tiny Epic Crimes has 2 modes to play. You can play cooperatively to catch the murderer, or you can play competitively against one another. We played this game, first of all, co-op, and then we played it competitive, and I'm telling you, that's the way I think you should do it, because you learn how to play the game cooperatively. You figure stuff out because you're learning it together when you're playing the game. And then when you play it competitively, it's fantastic. I mean, honestly fantastic. So co-op first, then competitive. Also, as you travel around the city, there are events which will pop up, which will keep you from doing what you're supposed to be doing. You'll have to break up weapons rings and a speakeasy and all these other things that pop up around, and they're always random, and they always add extra to the game and for the life of the city. Another great part about the board is it's huge. It's enormous. The first time you set it up, it's crazy. The second time, it's real easy. You know it immediately. You've got everything all set up. The cards all connect together perfectly, so it looks like a city. You can zoom in on that and see exactly how the cards all connect together. I mean, really, it is top-notch, the experience of the game. Once you've learned how to play the game together cooperatively, competitive is the way to play the game. It is the most satisfying because there's only a finite amount of information you can gather, and if you're the first one to get it, that's what makes the whole thing shine. It's a murder mystery. It is a murder mystery set in the Prohibition era mobland place, and it's a lot like Clue. It's a lot like Clue, where you have a murderer, and the murderer goes in the murderer envelope. You have a suspect, which goes in the murderer envelope, and you slide him in. You pick a suspect at random, slide them in to protect their identity, and then you drive around the city catching informants, witnesses, searching locations, arresting mobsters, planning stakeouts, and if you're the last player to complete one of the cards, which is, let me show you that. This is the weapon. You can decide whether or not you can decipher whether or not our killer is using a gun or a knife. And if you're the person who collects the three things, if you're the last person to collect the last thing, you're the only person who gets to slide that out and slide it into the weapon case. Let's figure this out. Here goes. Then when you turn it over, it highlights just that portion of the evidence on every character. So now you know he used a knife or she used a knife. It's really great. The little red thing, which is an old gaming technique that's been around for years, I love very much. It's very nostalgic. I think that's great. So once you decipher pieces of information, you have to mark it off on your own personal notepad, which is a handwritten list that the cheat sheet, they say in the rules to make this cheat sheet. And I made mine out of a 3x5 cards using Sharpies and stuff. It's not a knock on the game that doesn't come with a notepad, because it would take up a lot of space in the box. I get why they did that, but it seems a little cheap that you have to make your own notepad, but it works just fine, and now these all fit in my box and stuff. There are other ways throughout the game, if you're not the person who collects the evidence, to discover what the evidence is. Now, I'm not going to do a playthrough on exactly how to play the game. There are much better how-to videos that you can watch. Also, Tiny Epic has partnered with Dized. Dized, the app, which is fine. It's got a mode that teaches you how to play, walk you step by step. It's a monotoned AI voice, which is the problem I have with it. It gets kind of repetitive and monotonous, and it's not very good to my ears after a while. But the glossary is good, the frequently asked questions are good. And it's on my phone all the time. So they're using the Dized app. You can use that too. Let's talk about the box art. Okay. I talk a lot about boxes when it comes to games, because if you've ever had the Monopoly box in your hand and you realize how it bends and twists and it always falls to pieces, or Sorry, or Life, or Risk, or any of the games that I grew up with, it's nice to have a solid box. And the artwork is great. And on the back, you get a nice picture to use this as a dice rolling tray for the awesome bullet dice that they give you, another great part of the components. The components, they're 10 out of 10. I love the little wooden pieces. I adore the little wooden cars. And yeah, the bullet dice, the cardboard is good. I know, it's just cardboard. How can that be bad? Well, if you've ever played a game with bad cardboard, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So the components are beautiful and the box is great. The presentation of the entire game is lights out. One more note about the box. Fantasy Flight is a big culprit of the following. A lot of times everything fits so perfectly in the box that the second you take everything out of its packages, you can't get it all back in the box. And this one is also difficult for a little bit. Here's what I'm going to recommend. There's a little tie string that comes on your little bag that you need to hold your mobsters in, like you can tie it shut. You don't ever need to tie it shut, you just need to have these things in the bag. I cut the string out. It's amazing how much more space that this thing takes up when there's a string attached to it. So I cut the string off just like I did for Tiny Epic Pirates. Same thing, cut the string off the bag. All right, the immersive quality of this game, because that is what is most important to me. I need to feel like I'm the officer in the car, driving around the city, investigating, crossing people off my list. I need to know and pretend that I'm the figure on the board solving the crime. And I do. It really satisfies that crime find. It does. It's all just deduction. You're eliminating things off a cross list, but you feel like a detective. It's fun. It's got a fun game. Also, with the Kickstarter campaign, I got 2 expansions. I got the Kingpins expansion, and then I got the mini expansion, which Scott Alms is known for, doing a mini expansion, which adds a little more to the game in a tiny bag. And that one has 2. That has the Crooked expansion and the Capos expansion. Crooked, whether or not the officer's playing is crooked or loyal, and you can discover that out and get penalties if you're wrong, and success if you're right, you get whatever's. And then the Capos expansion is adding specific mobsters which need specific rules on how to arrest them. And I'm adding that immediately. That looks like a lot of fun. I'm going to add that. Yeah, make you feel like a detective. It is Tiny Epic Crimes. You've solved the murder. I loved it both times we played it, both cooperatively and competitively. Competitively is the better game by all means. Now that I've got this game, my new rankings are as follows. I'm putting it right after Zombies. Tiny Epic Crimes is my third favorite, which is really saying something. It really knocked it out of the park. I was so happy. I am so happy to own this game. I recommend it. Clue was my favorite board game from that era. Between Clue and Life and Risk, Monopoly, and all those things, I always loved Clue because you feel like a detective going around crossing things off your list, and this one just fits the bill a lot. I'm telling you right now. Tiny Epic Crimes from Gamelin Games and creator Scott Almes. It's a 10 out of 10. It's fantastic. That'll do it for this week for my review of Tiny Epic Crimes from Gamelin Games and Scott Almes. What are you playing? Are you playing any new games? Are you playing an old game that you've never stopped playing because you love it so much? I do. I have Eldritch Horror right there on my shelf. I have Tiny Epic Galaxies. I still play Cash and Guns, which is another one of my favorite games, and I'm always down for a game of concept. I mean, there are a lot of old games like Survive. I did my review for Survive and doing all of that like that. What are you playing? What's getting you right now? What are you excited to play? You sit down with your friends, you look across the table at your good friends. That's what playing a game is. Get together with some friends and play some goofy stuff, okay? It'll make you smile. It'll make you happy. It always makes me happy to sit down with good friends and play a game. It's the best part. It's the best part. Till I see you next time, as always, peace, love, live long and prosper.